Hello and welcome back to the smoke room. We will be continuing where we left off on Nick's route. So, if you recall before, Nick, Yao, and Samuel were stuck in the mines after trying to mine for the gold. Um, After they found it and everything, there was a blast which was caused by, I believe his name is Ben, the golden retriever, and one of his friends. I think it was a bird, who Ben promptly killed because he wanted to get out after Ben um he blew part of the tunnel and ended up getting stuck there where Nick, Yao, and Sam are. But after like a little confrontation, Ben ended up falling into the water below, and the spider monster that inhabits the mines basically went after him and left the trio alone. Afterwards, Yao led uh, Samuel and Nick out of the mines. They ended up passing through a cavern that was like a crystal cavern or a crystal. It kind of reminded me like of a geode. Um, and Samuel started seeing like some weird stuff, but eventually they ended up getting out, and they ended up getting out inside of the Hendrix Manor, which, as you know, is probably the worst place to be, trapped in. So basically, we're going to be picking up from there. However, there is one thing that I would like to point out before that, though. Actually, let me see if they'll show it here, and they won't. With Nikolai's route, actually, with this whole visual novel, depending on your actions, you could either get a good ending or a bad ending. Well, not even that. You can change the outcome of the story, and more so, I believe, with Nikolai than with anyone else. You can choose to trust Yao, and then later on, you can choose to trust Yao like for reals again, which leads you to the route that I am in. Or you can choose not to trust Yao, and you are. Well, Sam is a little bit openly hostile with Yao, but you eventually get the option to trust Yao. And more or less, what happens in the route that I'm recording happens. Basically, he leads you out of the mines. He shows you the gun, I believe, and you cross through the crystal cavern, and then you end up, popping out through the Hendrix Manor, and you all live happily ever after. Well, not yet, of course, but you can also choose not to trust Yao at all, and I believe that he ends up dying. I originally wanted to record the I do not trust Yao route, like to show it, like to compare, but I don't know if I have the time. If you end up seeing the smoke room videos, then that's because I had time. If you only end up seeing this one, then oh well. Or who knows, maybe later I will record and show you, because some very, very interesting things happen if you do not trust Yao. And the only hint that I can give you is that something bad, well, something, actually, yeah, no, you can't really sugarcoat it. Something bad happens to Samuel. You and Nick make it out of the mines, Yao does not. And basically, Samuel is worse for wear. So yeah. Anyway, so I guess without further ado, let us continue Nikolai's I trust Yao route. The next room is cluttered with cans and storage. We follow the corridor until it leads us into a corner. We follow it left into another narrow corridor that also guides us left. Why is this place arranged to go counterclockwise? It feels like the stairs in a castle. Like it was expected that there could be things climbing up from the basement. Or maybe this was what somebody used to expect. It guides us left to a center room full of very expensive weight equipment. I feel the padded leather seat and whistle quietly. These look way nicer than what y'all got out in the barn. Wanna take a quick break just to sit in them? That gold ore is heavy enough to lift. Besides, we are all sweating. We should not leave a trace on anything. Lighten up, fellas. I ain't actually suggesting we use it. Truth be told, I always get an uncomfortable feeling when I enter somebody else's house. To look alone is a privilege in a stranger's home. I used to pretend that every surface in a home was a hot stovetop just to avoid giving my hosts the wrong impression. The feeling is all that much worse when you know that you shouldn't be here. But then again, this was the case with my old house too. So, I'm used to it. Nick's voice is barely a whisper as he speaks. Found the stairs. The three of us ascend slowly. None of us want to make a ruckus on a creaky stairwell. We push open the door at the top of the stairwell as slowly as we can. It's strange to see the lights on in a house this early in the morning. But then I remember James has servants. The kind that do all the housework before sunrise. Shit. There's candlelight on either side of us. But there is a natural light to the right. Won't we get seen? Ideally, no. But I would rather a servant who does not know my face than a master who does. He makes a bolt to the right. Nick and I follow him and see it's the den of the Hendricks family. It looks very clean, so the odds are good that nobody will come to dust it. There is a big glass window with a latch and a rising frame. Nick goes through first to test and see if it will fit us all, since he's the biggest. He drops out of the window with a quiet thud in the dirt. Yao gets in position to go next, but before he exits the window, he takes a piece of twine from his pocket and ties it to the latch on the window. Then he hops, as gracefully as ever, in one fluid motion. He clears the landing area and motions me forward with his hands. I put one leg over and breathe a sigh of relief when it's not that far of a drop. But the confidence escapes me as I see the candlelight shining in the hall around the corner. I swear jumping out of the window as quickly as I can. Yao pulls on the twine to lower the window close. I stay behind and crouch, looking through the glass just to make sure that whoever's holding the candle didn't see me. I expect to see somebody who looks like a maid or a butler. But I see the mistress of the house holding a candle. She's followed by a fox with red fur. She might be one of the Burns sisters, but I'm not sure. It's a strange thing to see at the crack of dawn. What's stranger is that they're stopping at a bookcase. It looks like they're rearranging chess pieces on a board. Also looks pretty crazy if I'm being honest. A powerful force tugs on my sleeve. Sam, what are you doing? I just saw something weird going on. I look back and I don't see anybody present. If they overheard us, that isn't good. Come on, we have to go. He tugs me harder and I'm almost sent sprawling. We have to walk a few yards past the back of the Hendricks mansion to come upon the precipice. It's a much steeper drop than the window. How the hell are we gonna get down that? Yao doesn't answer and just starts climbing down with his bare hands. We all have the claw strength to do it, Sam. Just go slow. I'll go below you. It ain't exactly worse than climbing down a rope in a dark cave. But I don't love the feeling of scrambling down jagged, clunky rock with my claws. By the time that I look down, Yao has already made it to the bottom. He mouths that he'll catch me if I fall. Or maybe he said that he won't catch me. Times like this make me want to strangle him just a little bit. Nick is a third of the way down when he gives me that urgent look that he gives me when he thinks that I'm in trouble. I take a quick breath and hop down to a lower outcropping of rocks, making the mansion above me disappear from view. Hell of a lot easier going down stuff like this cliff after we've been running around in that mine. I'm thankful that it's still dark on this side of the land. Because if it were somebody's job to watch this hill and take shots at anybody going down, then we'd probably be dead already. It helps some that the bottom ends in a little copse of trees. Nick tackles me, dragging me down into the undergrowth. hear a gunshot. You see something out there? Yeah. Thought I heard voices too. I didn't hear any. Doesn't mean that there wasn't none. People were animals. You probably scared them off with that shot. You shouldn't waste your bullets. Wasn't wasting if I hit one of them. Guess we'll know soon enough. We don't move for at least half an hour until their voices fade off into the distance. Yao starts crawling on all fours. Nik follows his lead, then me. I wonder how far we need to crawl from the cliff and the woods to steer clear of shoot first and ask later territory. Apparently enough when all the trees thin out. My heart jumps for joy when I see the dirt road that leads back into the town. Shit, that was close. The tiger just stares at me again. He walks towards me and I flinch like he's about to punch me. But he grabs me tight by the shoulders and kisses me on the mouth. Hey! Then he pushes me away and starts to laugh. What the hell was that for? We did it, you fool! We're alive and we're rich! Nik places his hands on Yao's chest and very slowly pushes him out of the way. Then he kisses me on the mouth. For a noticeably longer time than Yao. Then he breaks away. Looks me over. Then he dips me to kiss me again. Alright already. I push back and look around us. The daylight's starting to get stronger now. You are not getting away with that one either. Now that Nik is free of me, the tiger goes in on the badger for a kiss. Nik lets out a muffled cry of surprise. But once he's over the shock and the squirming, he doesn't push away. Gentlemen, this is a road. Yao breaks the smack, laughing like a lunatic. It's the least restrained that I've ever seen him. Just one train ticket, and we are... He sobers up, as if remembering something. Well, you are both free. So are you. His lips thin. Perhaps. I still have a lot to think about. I may need to rethink some approaches. There are important decisions that I have yet to make. The three of us walk together on the dusty road away from the direction of the mine and the Hendricks Manor, not so much greeting the sun, but shamed by its presence. Just a reminder of how long it took us to do what needed doing in an hour's time. I hope you are both emotionally prepared to leave this place behind. He doesn't know half of it. I'm so happy that I could jump up into the sun. If you want to say your last goodbyes, you should do so before noon. Before we say goodbye to anybody, we still need to tell William about the guard. Then I come back to Earth. The tiger grunts as if he was expecting this to come back up again. I suppose that is true. A sudden feeling wells up in me when I think about Dora and Cynthia and the girls. I'm more than ready to go, but I don't want to start missing them. William comes to mind again, too. I know he doesn't like it here either, but I think he likes the little community that we've built, loath as he is to admit it. He's an elected official, so he's pretty much trapped here. Though he probably wouldn't have much trouble getting work somewhere else. It's a crazy thing to want to telegram the law when you're practically running from it. But he won't be sheriff forever. Things could happen, giving enough time. I'd like to think that he cares enough about me to want to drink with me and Nik again in a happier time and in a happier place. But maybe he'll just forget about me and find another warm mouth. I think that it would be wise to get your tickets before visiting anybody. I suggest a midnight departure for the smallest crowd. Otherwise, try to get out as soon as you can. But the two of you should pick out different times for the location if you don't want to be tracked as easily. The two of us? Aren't you riding with us too, Peyton? He looks away from us. I can't tell if it's sad or focused. I have not decided yet. Wait 3 days for me at most at Peyton's Firehouse Inn. If everything goes well, I will send you a telegraph. Jin is the name to look out for. The tiger turns to go, but he pauses. I know your hearts are in the right place, but stay away from the mine quarry today. I do not think that I can protect you anymore if something happens. Before either of us get to ask him anything else, he leaves us. Do you think that we should take his advice and head for the train? We should hide the gold first. I can buy a proper pack if you wait outside the general store for me. He hands a cloth sack to me and puts its shirt back on. Neither of us smell like flowers nor look too clean, but we find a spigot to wash up before showing our faces again in civilized society. Thankfully, it is still too early in the morning for that many folks to be milling around. But the store is open. It doesn't take long for Nik to be in and out. We pack our haul together. Then we make our way to William's office. I knock on the door. We don't hear anything. Nik knocks on the door a lot louder. Christ almighty, give me a spell. We hear some shuffling around and some moving bottles. Then we hear more locks than we're used to hearing on William's door. It opens up, and we see a bleary-eyed coyote, hands stained with pen ink. Huh? You two look like shit. He opens the door wider and a bottle rolls past us. Come on in. He opens the door wider to let us in. I don't think that I've ever seen his office in this kind of state. But as we look around at the mess, he's looking us up and down. Sorry about the mess, but I wasn't expecting anybody over this early. Hope you don't mind me pointing it out, but you both look rough. We were busy all night. What's your excuse for being drunk? Got a lot on my mind. Needed to take the edge off. For what reason? We caught ourselves a serial killer who preys on children, so it's not the happiest line of work. There were rumors going on about the few kids in Echo disappearing, but I always figured that they moved away or died of natural causes. Jesus. He ain't clergy, if that's what you're asking. Who is it then? Can't say. At least, until I have federal backup. You can't just arrest him now? I certainly have the power to, but it's likely that this is somebody who could easily worm their way out. It's best that we contact the federal government before he does and makes things messy. I'm sorry things are hard right now, but they ain't about to get easier. The coyote grunts. Do they ever? We're leaving town for good. We hear an empty bottle fall off the table and roll onto the others on the floor. What? Why? It's the National Guard, Will. They're coming to town. If I stay, the Union will want me there. It could end up like Ludlow. Them coming doesn't make much sense, though. I told Testerman that the situation was under control. The strike is dissolving. Foreman Moore said that James accepted most of their terms already. Don't trust a damn thing that you hear any of the mine people say. The whole damn operation is crazy. I don't know how many times somebody tried to hurt or kill me when it weren't even an accident. The whole town wouldn't exist if it weren't for the mine, Sam. Then maybe it shouldn't fucking exist, William. The coyote throws a few bottles into the bin. Okay. So, if you're both really insisting on leaving, here's what I don't get. So what if the guard is coming? Why's that your problem, if you're just gonna leave? Because we still have friends down here, Will. The answer is that it's too hard not to think about Yao. How he knew where the gun was in the caves. Was he the one responsible for planting it, or did he just discover it? Either way, I can't tell William. Especially if the tiger's going to try something illegal with the guard before he leaves. I know he's going to try to do something. He has plans that he wasn't sharing with us. At least not entirely. Will gives me a hard look. So, you do care about some of the people who live here then? Now there's an unexpected development. Just listen, Will. I grab him by the shoulders. We need you to take care of this. You're the only one around here who has the power to do anything. Whatever I did managed to make him sober up some. He grabs both of my wrists. I don't know why you think. He pushes my hands off his shoulders. that I wouldn't take care of it. He shoves me back, then he brushes himself off. If it happens at all. The both of you are the ones running away, remember? If running away means that the best people that I have known in my life will stay safe, then yes, William, I am running away. I want you to run away with us because I do not think that this is a problem that any of us can solve. At first, I thought that I wanted to stay. I made the best friends that I've ever had here. But now I realize that we need to go, and that I will bring whoever will go with me. This town has a sickness, and it starts with the people in charge of the mine. The men who do more work and more good are torn apart and ground into dust. The men who do less work and more evil are rewarded for their loyalty and their willingness to spread the wrong. It is a bottomless well with water fouled by corpses. Nobody can blame you if you do not stay to drink its poison. I hear you, Nik. But think about my position for just a moment. What sort of future waits for me if I leave? I can't really think of one for a sheriff who goes missing the moment things get tough. Especially if the National Guard does start a disaster. You see, cowards don't make for very good lawmen. My life isn't so comfortable that I won't ever need a job again. I look down at the picture frame he has his hand over. And that's the only reason? He opens his mouth like he's about to answer, but then he doesn't. These people have no contingency plans put in place. They'd be completely stranded with nobody to help them out. So, even if there is a chance of preventing that, then I still have an obligation to take that risk. But William, if the guard is there, this is their opportunity to remove undesirables without claiming responsibility. The bosses are laying a trap for everybody. You could die. All of us could. And for what? What makes you think things will have to come to that? Because I know how the bosses think. And I know how the unions think. They will retaliate. Whenever I picture it over and over again, it ends in bloodshed every time. If you want to help, then we need to tell people to stay away from the mines before the guard shows up. William takes a deep breath. Then he exhales. I understand that this could all happen. But I'll do anything else for you besides leaving town. We can warn whoever you like. I can tell people to stay home because you're afraid something might happen. But you of all people should know that folks around here don't much like being told what to do. But my question is that good enough for you? Because I think that's about all that I can do for you. I am not going to let a serial killer go because there is a chance that the guard and the protesters start up a fight. I just can't do it. Will mentioned disappearances here and there before, but I didn't think that they were real. Now, this is exactly the shit that I'm talking about, William. Fuck this town. It's cursed. There's bad people everywhere, Sam. If we leave, they win. As far as I'm concerned, doing this is the only thing that warrants the existence of my position. He clears his throat and folds his hands. You gentlemen, of course, are more than free to go. Before my eyes, William, my lover, is replaced with William, Echo's head authority of the law. But I should ask you both again. Is it prudent for me to accompany you until your ticket out of town arrives? Is that something that the both of you would want me to do? Nik looks over to me. Please. I don't know why I say that word in particular. Maybe because it's less callous than a no? Less final than a goodbye. It's just a reminder that I want him with us. Even if it's just for a little while longer. Then I will go. Mind you, if somebody does show up at the mines, I'll be obligated to attend. William leads Nik to the door. Before I go, I turn the picture over. It's a picture of a lady wolf who's young and pretty, and a very small wolf who looks not a day over 10, and a hell of a lot like William. Let's go so that I can lock up Sam. When I hear William's voice, I pull my paw away from the photo as quickly as if it were a hot griddle. Outside, it's quiet in the way that only comes with the early morning before the rest of the world stirs. Birds are chirping and a pair of tumbleweeds passes by. William is hosing off Nick to get the grime and dirt off of him while he still wears his jeans. Where to first, boys? I ought to go to the hip. William gives me a strange look, almost like he's wary. Need to pack up my things. Talk to the madam. It was brief, but he's never made a face like that before. I told him that I was going to the hip. I wonder why he did that. Nick shakes off the water from his fur with a tremendous shake. I am finished now, so you don't have to wait. He jerks his head to the hose in William's hand. We don't have time for a proper wash right now. Will sprays me with cold water from the hose. The fuck, William? You said that you were going to the hip. Not looking like that, you ain't. Let's get you somewhat presentable. Hose water ain't a proper wash. Now I'm just dirty and wet. But your pants ain't caked in mud, which is a start. You won't get attention from a single soul if they take a look at you and run away. He's right. But I still slap the hose out of his stupid fucking paw. Temper, temper, pussycat. I feel the hose water run down my back and the backside of my calf as it drips on the dirt road. But it's already getting hot, so it'll clear off of me in no time. Whatever. Let's just go. By the time that we reach the hip, I'm damp but not sopping wet. So I don't have to be afraid of making a mess on any of the rugs. Nick and Will stay back at the entrance. Y'all coming? I'm gonna reach out to Nick's people while you settle things here. I think that you can handle this on your own, considering it's your place. Trying to get rid of me already, William? You wish. He takes a look at his watch. I'll be back in an hour, on the dot. Nick lowers his voice as the two of them walk away, but I can still hear him. The shacks are the first place that we should go. Then the press. When I open the front door, the noise of Benton's playing and the rest of the crowd drowns out anything from the outside. The bar isn't as crowded as the front of the saloon this early in the morning. I want to find Cynthia. Instead, I see an otter at the bar. I try to avoid eye contact, but it doesn't quite work. Hey, I know you. No, I don't think you do. No, yeah, I do. You're Mr. Ayers. You play cards with Sheriff Adler, don't you? Something like that. You're the deputy, yeah? Deputy Todd Bronson at your service. Hope that I'm not making much trouble. You work here, right? I do errands here and there. Well, that's great. I've been wanting the bartender to stock juice at the bar for breakfast on the account that I don't drink tea, coffee, or alcohol. Don't the general store have a concentrate? Yeah, but the host said that if I needed something at the bar that I shouldn't be afraid to ask for anything during my stay. Wait, you're lodging here? The otter looks a bit flustered. Only for a mite. My folks have leaky pipes and my room got the worst of it. You'd think that wouldn't be a problem. I thought otters liked water. I'm sorry, but, I can't help you now. Aw, shucks. Well, I'll be near the bar for the most of my stay, so feel free to help me when it's most convenient. Sorry to interrupt, but have you seen a small Kid Fox woman? I reckon she's still sweeping the upper halls. I slap him on the back with the back of my hand, which makes him lurch forward. Thanks. His voice goes squeaky. I make a sharp turn towards the stairs leading up to the second story of the saloon, somewhat distracted by how pitiful the deputy came across. It's no wonder William is reluctant to leave if that's the guy that he's leaving in charge. But I can't help shake how odd it is that the man who doesn't drink coffee, alcohol, or tea would want to be at a bar for the majority of his stay, especially considering all of the other things that we have to offer. At the top of the stairs, I'm happy to see that the otter steered me right. Cynthia is there, sweeping in strides, singing to herself, only coming to a stop as I approach. She stops in place, seeing me. She looks at my dirty clothes. I know that she wants to ask what happened to me, but I can recognize by her face how much restraint that she's practicing. So she treats this exchange that we're about to have just like it's any other day. Top of the morning, Sam. You're up early. Too early. She nods. Cynthia. She holds a broom, ringing it gently, waiting on the next few words that I have to say. I have to go. She nods a few times, smiling. Ain't that everyone's line around here? She gives me a sad smile. I'm sure that's gonna be my line, too, sooner or later. She laughs a little, to fill the silence. It is unkind for me to say that it felt like you already left a while ago. I feel my lips dry. No, not unkind at all. She just laughs. You look like you've been through hell, Samuel Ayers. She keeps laughing. I start to laugh too. My clothes are filthy. I smell. I'm darkening the doorway of a flower in the desert. I don't know if I ever left. But I want to find my way out, Cynthia. She nods. Okay, Samuel Ayers. She lets go of the broom with one of her hands and leans against the railing. And if I do, why don't you come follow me? And what about Ethel, Sam? What about Ethel? She tuts. No, let me finish. And what about Lucy and Scarlett? And the madam? And all the other girls before them? She wipes her brown eyes. Shit. I'm not going to do this every time. She shakes her head. You know my address. You know my telegraph. Write me or don't. Cynthia. She hands me the broom. I take it and stare at her. I need you to get out of town. If only for a few days. For the first time that she's looked at me, I see fear. What's happened? We think that there's going to be something bad. Worse than anything that's ever happened here before. And we don't think that there's anything that we can do to stop it. Sam? What are you talking about? The National Guard is coming to the mines. Horrible understanding spreads across her face. The strike. She rushes to her room, leaving her door ajar. She pulls a bag from the closet and starts stuffing it with dresses and stockings and various personal belongings. If you pack only what you need for just a few days, that might be all the time that we need to spend away from here. I mean, if you're looking to come back. By when will we need to get a ticket? My plan was to leave before the afternoon. She lets out a sudden cry that almost sounds like her lungs are collapsing. Oh, Sam. What? She's looking out her window. She's pointing. We see miners running in the direction of the quarry. I just hope that it's not too late to get out. Unfair. It is an Albion word composed of the prefix un, which demarcates nullification, and fair, a root which traditionally stems from a meaning of pleasant or beautiful. In this case, fair demarcates justice. This is because words in Albion sound the same, and it's spelled the same, but have different meanings. This is also because Albion is a language of contexts. What matters in this language is not just how something is said or how something is spelt that matters. Its placement in a series of other words contribute to its context. However, fuck the letters U and W. Not only are they uncommon letters, which makes them a bitch to find the correct slants for, but a W does not sound like two U's, it looks like two V's. This is because neither U nor W's used to exist in the classical and dead language that Albion and its many other Romance languages derive themselves from. Both U and W used to be replaced by one V and two V's respectively, in spite of the very fact that all three of these letters make drastically different phonemes. Unfair wages is a phrase that has both a U and a W, which makes me a very unlucky bastard, doubly so in part because they are uncommon, and because they are not placed in the key boxes they are labeled to be in. Here's the W. It is perhaps wrong to be grateful for another man's injury. But if his foot were not crushed, I would have never found this fucking W. Thank you. What would I do with myself if I did not have the menial tasks to solve? Enjoy life, perhaps? There is no joy in life without purpose, my friend. A hobby, then. Now, why would I contrive work for myself when there is always work to be done? Because for most people, work is considered tedious. I gesture to the plate that I'm putting together with my feet. The pain in my hands is always there, but I can ignore it when I don't have to use it. Make sure you wrap the plates in at least 10 rotations or the letters will unravel. I stop wrapping the plate with my foot paw to stare at him. Are you going to lend a spare foot, or help me then? Sure would if it wasn't broken. You see, bears, we are more dexterous than you think. It is brazen at best to brag about dexterity to a sable. I do not boast about what I can't back up. Just be careful about what you put into the platen press. The Citrine Valley Tribune will make us pay if we break it. I practice wrapping up the plates as tightly as I can. It is pointless to tie the frame together without the photo engraving delivered yet. The fox is taking long. Why don't they let us rent the cylindrical press? It is a pointless question to ask. I already know why. Larger cities are lucky to have a cylindrical press, which can print hundreds of thousands of papers at night at a time. The Citrine Valley Tribune is unusual to have cylinder presses in practice for a city this small. They don't just deliver to Echo. The trains deliver to Camp Rosa, to Peyton, to Mesa. But people like Gretchen Burns, James Hendricks, Porter Moore, and Dora Soranzo can establish such resources with shocking ease. I don't like admitting such praise for the man who had a part in ruining my body. But his purchasing power is real. Hey, Chang? The Wolverine yells for me across the press warehouse rather than walking up to me, disturbing the other workers. You said that you were waiting on a red fox, right? Irritation melts away as relief washes over me. I sit up and point at the construction of type on the floor to Dimitri. Watch this for me, please. I'm not going anywhere. Paul grabs my shoulder before I walk out the door. Be careful with that one. He comes from money. Seems shifty too. I shrug him off. Ask before you touch me. I hear him mutter Your Majesty before he sulks away. I look outside. He's waiting in the area that I told him to wait, behind the sign of the press. Sorry I'm late. Better late than never. He plucks a metal block out of his sack and hands it to me. I had to remix a few materials to make sure that the photo engraving was as accurate as you wanted. I practically became a professional at engraving after spending so much time on the kind of wedding invitations my sister wanted. Will it look just like them? Just like their pictures, yeah. I pull out a paper bag from my coat and hand it over to him. 20 ounces, like we agreed. I don't know what I'd do without you. He gives me a nod and a smile. Somehow, he knows not to try and touch me. And he knows not to try and shake my good hand. He is the kind of person who notices things without being told. This is why Paul knows that he might be dangerous. You know, a woodblock would have been a lot cheaper to make. I know plenty of good whittlers who could have whipped you up a decent likeness of both of your bosses. No woodblocks. A likeness isn't good enough. They need to see their real faces. How lucky for you then. That's as real as you're gonna get. A clean transaction as always, Mr. Burns. He salutes me with 2 of his digits and whistles on his way. They usually start cordial, until they start to use too much. That's only about half of them, though. The feeling of sharp scraping against my bones flares up again. It's the kind of pain that makes you keel over and empty your stomach. I know that I'm out in the open and it's the middle of the day, but it hurts so bad that I don't even care. I need the pain to go away because I have something to do. I get my pipe and my bag and my lighter. The needle is small. Nobody will see it. I put the flame to it until it bubbles. Then I stuff it through the hole and suck from the pipe. As I suck, I think of him. He would be yelling at me if he saw me now. But it takes the pain away. And when the pain is gone, I remember that there is a job to do. I smoke until it is all gone and the pipe is safe to put away. Then I go back inside the building. Paul and Dimitri are there, staring at my configuration of the plates on the floor like it is some kind of jigsaw puzzle, and I kneel in front of it. I told you that he wouldn't be away for long. That felt pretty long to me. I needed a break after the trade. My apologies. Did that pretty boy try to rip you off? Don't be ridiculous. It was a professional transaction. Pardon my hesitancy then. I just know what it's like to be treated like trash by spoiled brats. If there was a problem, then I would have let you know. Now pay attention. I bind the plates with a string in my foot paws in 10 tight rotations. You fit this cluster of blocks, which we are calling a frame, into the metal bed of the plate and press. Sekao Ri Afnu? It's unfair wages, backwards. Why is it backwards? Because it would print the message on the paper backwards if it wasn't. I pre-measured the frame to fit correctly into the block, slipping it into the metal bed that holds it. Now feed the red ink onto the rollers over there with a spatula. Then feed paper into the paper holder. Get somebody with a strong foot to step on it like it's a loom, and it will spit out our flyers. I demonstrate, considering that it would be cruel to ask this of Dimitri. I produce dozens of papers in the span of a few seconds. Paul plucks one out of the feeder and sees the faces of the bosses in what might be one of the most accurate replications of a face that I've ever seen on paper. Suddenly there is a crash in the window. Then a scream. Somebody is on the floor, bleeding. Another crash. Another window. It is a firebomb. Who the hell is attacking a damn press? It's happened before. They burned the Daily Bants to the ground just a few months ago. But everybody knows that was Hendrix's people after they editorialized those rumors about his grandfather. This is the big one. Hendrix funds it himself. Paul takes a pistol out of the holster beneath his shirt. He peeks out the window. Then he opens fire and fires a few shots. We hear glass breaking and we can smell burning rubber as it speeds away. Dimitri is preoccupied putting out the firebomb by smothering it with a wet curtain he ripped off the wall. Two of the press runners, Lisa Songtag and Freddie Maynard, help put out the fires with dirt. Those were Briggs's people. You sure about that? I've seen the automobile before. I see several of the union workers, among them being Harvey Fleming. I do not know how to pronounce that name. I am very sorry. Daniel Garcia and Finley Blair chase after the quarry, signs in hands. Wait! If they wanted to burn down the press, wouldn't they have waited until everybody was sleeping? They weren't really after the press, were they? But they got everybody riled up again. Why would they do this if we're close to cutting a deal? Because they never wanted to cut a damn deal. I know that, Paul. They never want to cut a deal. The idea is to give them no alternatives. Until now, they had none. So what the hell changed? I don't know. The only thing that would make them bolder is some kind of outside support. Sounds like they finally got the feds roped in. Dimitri doesn't answer. We know that they're willing to do it. They've done it before. Mow down all sorts of good men because they couldn't get on without their coal and their luxuries. They measure out our lives by the trainloads, Dimitri. I know, Paul. They ain't ever gonna stop. And we aren't gonna win if we turn this into a battle of force. Don't you want to win? Depends. What's winning to you? A better life for the living with no bloodshed. We lose that if we let this devolve into blunt warfare. So, let's not make this a battle of force then. Let's give Briggs consequences for his actions for once. Thank you. I thought that I just said that I don't want anybody going to war. War's already here. He's right. He's emotional. We're all emotional. We just got attacked. All I'm doing right now is thinking. If Briggs, or somebody working for him, wants us to go to the quarry, then I think that it would be a good idea right now to go somewhere else. I'll take any plan to fight back at this point. I'm with you, little man. I know how this must sound. But thinking and acting is absolutely what we should not do right now. Perhaps he wants us all at the quarry. Perhaps he's looking for an excuse to do something worse. Any misstep that we could take could get our friends killed. A gunshot wound is quick, sudden, and more often than not, lethal. It does not take very much at all to kill a person. Then it is best that we don't get caught. Are you coming? Where are you going? I can't say if you don't agree to come. Then no. I suck on my teeth and put my hands in my pockets. That decision doesn't deserve my response. Sam! Nikolai's shout almost makes me and Cynthia stumble out of the window. Christ, Nick, what's wrong? All of the miners are rushing the quarry. And I mean everybody. Why? I don't know. Everybody was peaceful less than 5 minutes ago. Is the guard already here? I don't think so. I'm going to tell the madam right away. Then I'm going to the train station to see if they're still open. Nick stuffs a few pieces of paper into Cynthia's paw. Here is one for 4 p.m. I am changing my departure to midnight. What? Go with her and wait for me in Peyton, Sam. I look at my ticket Nick hands me, then hand it over to Cynthia. Give this to somebody you trust enough to travel with. What are you doing? We leave together, Nick. Nick exhales in frustration while Cynthia stares at the tickets in her paws. She holds her hand like she's trying to make a decision quick. Scarlett and Lucy won't travel if they aren't together. I'll ask the madam first, then see if we can get additional tickets. She finishes packing her bag, then rushes towards the door. 3 days in Peyton should be enough to know the state of things. If everything's right as rain by then, I'm coming back. So until then. Nick watches her go. She didn't say goodbye. Those were the widest that I've ever seen her eyes. I've never seen her this scared. I don't think that she wants to say goodbye because she doesn't want to think about what that means. Her home, her friends, her job. It's too much. She's not gonna let herself be paralyzed like that, even if it might be true. We need to move also. Yeah, we do. We go downstairs and I watch him walk over to William from the front porch of the Hip. The streets are packed with people waving their hands and shouting. William is waiting, crowded by dozens of men trying to talk to him at once, some grabbing onto his shirt. He turns around as he notices us. He mouths, "Are y'all seeing this?" All of a sudden there is a large mechanical screeching at the end of the road. More folks are yelling. Some are throwing rocks from their windows. The screeching sounds get closer as we see a black car turn a corner, forcing men to jump out of the way as it nearly mows down half a dozen people. William rolls out of the way when it looks like it swerves towards him. He pulls out his gun and shoots at the wheel. The car squeals as it goes lopsided and then swerves into a ditch, flipping over on its back. Some people swarm the car, driving out the drivers. Deputy Brownson comes out of the front door behind me, looking wildly around him. William shoots him a glare. The otter points a webby hand at the tipped-over car in the middle of the street, but William still shakes his head and the otter goes back inside. I need to arrest the drivers and disperse the crowd before this gets any worse. One of the men crawling out of the car is crawling on his belly, while a group of miners follow him with switches, hitting his arse and legs. I don't know, William. It's already pretty damn bad. If I leave these people to their own devices, then who knows what will happen. He pinches the bridge of his snout. Just let me handle this. It shouldn't take more than an hour or two. I turn to Nick in the midst of the chaos, who's still just staring at the flames of the automobile. Why don't we go to the station for those midnight tickets while we can? You're right. I'll go tell William that we won't be long. All we have to do to get to the train station is follow the tracks. I steel myself for the pain of seeing a sign that says closed on the ticket kiosk. But there is a clerk there. I sigh in relief, knowing that means Cynthia still has the opportunity to get anybody out who'd want to. Nik buys our tickets for midnight. I look up at the sky and see that it's starting to get red. It's well past noon already. So we buy some meat from the food kiosk to fill ourselves up. You're doing everything that we can. I'm not so sure. Why come? Because we're going to ride away with our lives in gold. They might die for an extra cent an hour. That doesn't have to be your fight anymore. Don't you feel free of it all? We're rich men now. We won't ever have to work another day in our lives. I look down the train tickets. I feel the wind blowing in one direction. It feels that I can fly away on it. It is difficult to feel rich if you have no friends and no family. I want to help them. But you can't, and you shouldn't. Nik inhales. Yao did not go. Yao himself told us not to be there. Dying ain't romantic, Nik. Trust me on this. I want to put it off for as long as possible. But why does anybody have to die? Can't we really do nothing? The best that we can do is let William handle stuff like this. Unless you have a better idea? Uh, I don't. You're already doing more than most people in this town would do for us if the positions were reversed. You're wrong, Sam. If I thought that were true, then I would not be doing it. I don't want to argue with him right now, so I just stop talking. We finish our meal and head back in the direction of the sheriff's office. William is waiting for us outside, looking just a bit more sour. I have arrested the drivers and filled out the paperwork. There's still more people running in the direction of the quarry. Luckily, I still haven't seen any ground troops, so the situation shouldn't be dire if we head over fast enough. Thank you, Will. You don't have to thank me. Ignoring this would be negligence. Hell, I'd ask a sheriff to resign if they weren't responding to something this egregious. We jog as quickly as we can in the direction of the quarry, sometimes pushing walls of miners past us, blocking the way. The group of men holding picket signs looks bigger than ever. They've definitely grown in number. Foreman Moore looks like he's trying to speak to a group of half a dozen men, pointing and yelling at him, and he's yelling back, but they don't seem to be getting nowhere. William shoots a warning shot into the sky. The crowd doesn't go silent, but they get a lot quieter. One at a time. Can somebody tell me what the hell's going on? There is an awful lot of noise about various grievances. Corrupt bosses, Mormon conspiracies, and Catholic indoctrination, but there's one repeated beat. Fire at the Citrine Valley Tribune. Foreman Moore steps up. Adler, do you mind telling this group of circus clowns that forming a riot every time that there is an incident ain't going to solve a damn thing? I'm paid to uphold the law, not to manage other people's businesses. Where are the co-owners? They're busy. Well, maybe they need to free up the schedule if this is how things end up on a weekly basis. The Gila gives William a frustrated shrug. How about some advice for something that I actually have control over? Somebody yells, "You control everything." He flips them the bird. While William hears as much as he can from as many different people, I spot a pair of tall brown ears. I grab Nick's wrist and drag him through the crowd until we can see him clearly. Felipe? His ears swirl towards me before his glance does. Didn't think that you were the kind of guy to show up for this sort of thing, Muscles. That's true. In fact, it's a bad idea for anybody to be here at all. Nick cuts in. Do you know why everybody formed another rally? They try to burn down another press. Who's they? Word is that it was the Pinkertons who work for Briggs. Though I don't know if that was really Pinkertons, though. Those guys are supposed to be hard to catch, yeah? Sneaky. These people just arrived in the middle of the day just to set shit on fire. Doesn't sound like any sophisticated operation to me. You can ask Dimitri, though, since he was there. Dimitri's here too? Where is he? Just over there. Shit. And I thought that we managed to save his life once already. Listen, Felipe. Go home or get out of town for a few days. Excuse me? Why? The National Guard is coming. The rabbit shrugs. They come. It's too dangerous to stay. Shit, man. Every day is dangerous. He shakes his head. I'm not about to take needless risks, but I want to make sure that I stand for something. Stand for something another day. This is a trap. He shrugs. Yao thinks so too. But he has a plan. I don't usually go along with his plans, but this time, I'm going to. If that's not what you want to hear, then sorry. He steps away deeper into the crowd. I give Nik a look to tell him that we tried, but he just gives me a sad head shake. Dimitri will listen. And if anybody can make others listen, then it has to be him. He pushes through the crowd. It's not hard to spot Dimitri's cap. Dimitri! The bear turns his sharp muzzle to Nik. His usual carefree look is gone. What's left behind is something far more severe. Perhaps a look from another time in another country. Please tell me. Who set the fire at the press? He grimaces. Paul said that it was one of the Briggs contractors. Was it? I saw one of their faces in the black cars. It's a face that I've seen around Briggs before, yes. Then, that confirms it. You put it together too, huh? This is a trap. Dimitri sighs. Smart man. We have to get everybody out of here. Very smart. I tried to talk to Philippe, but he wouldn't listen. And you think that they'll listen to me? Yes. People always listen to you. You're respected. You're established. He smiles again. And how do you think that I got that respect, Nikolai Kroll? It's because you always know what to do. But I don't, though. Listen, Nik. The Badger's hands are balled into tight fists, but he lets them slacken. People respect me because I let people do what they want to do. They can look at me and follow by example because I do good work, and I take a healthy amount of pride in that. But these men? He gestures around the crowd. There's fight in their blood. Some of them don't know what a real fight is, not having fought a real battle for one day in their lives, and they might be finding out real soon what that looks like. I hate it. You hate it. But you can't take the fight out of the men by saying stop that, can you? But most of them probably don't know what's coming. I've shared my suspicions with as many folks here as possible. Maybe 1 out of every 20 men I've talked to went home. You can think for hours on end about what you could have done or could have said that might have convinced one person to make a more careful decision. But only you have complete control over what you yourself do. After a while, you have to ask yourself a different set of questions. Like what? Like, when you know a battle's definitely coming, or are you going to stay and fight? There is a difference between a battle and a massacre. These men won't have a chance. Sometimes a battle is making sure that the people who you care about don't get sent to their graves. That's the only fighting that I plan on doing here today, when the time comes. Nik crosses his arms, closes his eyes, and hums. And there's no way that I can convince you to leave? The wind passes us by. I can't say that there is. You know, I used to be something people feared long ago. I'll become that again if it means a better me gets to see better days once this all comes to pass. Nik looks like he's struggling to find words. Let's respect his decision. Dimitri raises his paw with a salute. Nik walks away. So I follow. I think that I know what he's thinking. He must be thinking that he wasted his time. That he's powerless. But I know that he wouldn't ever say it. We walk back to the mirror of the quarry where William stands, and there's a prickle that goes up my back. It doesn't feel like the people in the rally are watching me. It feels like the mine itself is. But I don't look back to check. I don't know how to explain that it feels like I'm walking away from a graveyard when nobody's dead yet. I try to whisper into William's ear. Are the crowds thinking about dispersing yet? I ask this a little bit uselessly, considering that I can see people raising their signs and getting into fresh arguments with the foreman again. When I develop the preternatural feat of telepathy, you'll be the first to know, and we can join the carnival together. William's attention wasn't disrupted by my grunt of dismay. It gets interrupted by a trumpet. We see them ride down the sun-dried slope, trotting on horses, shifting like distorted pictures in the heat wave. Even their beasts, eyes hidden by mask slips, stepped with a mechanical kind of diligence. By my estimation, there are more than 30 of them, and they are coming our way. The man with the most decorations and the largest antlers dismounts his horse. The rest of them follow suit. Sand crunches beneath their boots as they walk up to us in strides. I sink back into the crowd of the miners. The man speaks loudly with a sharp, clean effect. Who has authority here? William lifts his hand in a half wave. I am the Seguro County Sheriff. I can see how the situation is out of control. There's barely any staff for a crowd this large. Stand by for assistance. The situation isn't out of control, and assistance is not needed. Explain, please. The gathered party here is concerned with an attempted arson on the city's printing press. We were not debriefed about any concerns of arson. The crime happened today. Why was this allowed to happen? The accused are already in jail, awaiting a debrief. William is starting to smile. To the untrained eye, it's the kind of smile that looks disarming. But this is a smile that goes off on his face when he's trying not to bite somebody's head off. Mayor Testerman informed me that you would no longer be needed. Negative. Testerman requested assistance 2 days ago for the assured safety of Echo City and for the rest of the Commonwealth. If you don't mind me being blunt, the journey has been long. Plenty of lodging places in town. Unnecessary. We will establish our lodgings as we occupy the premises. What's unnecessary is an occupation, especially in response to civilian concern of criminal allegations. We look forward to your cooperation. Ignoring what I just said does not mean that I did not say it. Duly noted. As I stare at the firebomb in my paw, I have to consider the usefulness of law. Law and order are fine and grand things when legislation is designed to be fair. But too often, the contrary is true. Laws are written all the time to assure unfairness. Like who can or cannot own land. Or by how much you count as a person in an official election. That is, if you happen to count as a person at all. Cleverly, this unfairness promotes instability. Those who are wealthy offer stability in exchange for more wealth. The accumulation does not end. Through these generations of thievery, the understanding of people's labor is lost. But there is something remarkably different about the very first grifter. The one who sows his seeds with the evil knowledge of the fruit that they bear. Law does not protect us from this enemy. In fact, law is designed to instate him. He is a marvelous enemy indeed, for he is tempered by the throats that he has slit and the bones that he has mangled with his own hands in a manner both eager and fervent. Are you sure that you want to do this? Wanting to do something has little to do with this. I am certain. Unlock the gates so that the beasts can escape. Okay, but I ain't hanging around to see you finish. I'm heading over to the quarry before they figure out what's going on. Best hurry then. I hold this bottle in one paw, and I hurt. I hold this lighter in another paw, and I laugh. It is an expensive laugh. I deign not to laugh so freely for, in all of its complete irony, this was Briggs' greatest mistake before me. A man who is used to winning in all of his guile will always laugh too freely. But tonight, he purchased it with roughly $2,000 worth of livestock, and he will never know what gave him away, because knowing his laugh is my little secret. We can all smell the smoke before we see it. Far away, the sky is turning a tinge of red from the fire of the smoke. The city appears to be on fire, Sheriff. That's been something of a pattern today, if you're interested in putting some of it out. Somebody slips past me in the crowd, huffing and puffing. By the woodsy scent, I can tell that it's Paul. The big Wolverine lumbers through a group of people and he whispers something to Felipe. The hare turns his head as if he heard something wrong. A stampede of horses and cattle run across the road, scattering each which way in the wilderness of the desert. Looks like you've lost control of the beasts, too. Animal husbandry ain't in my job description. Now, are you and your people here to help, or are you just here to... I hear something that sounds like a strange kind of whizzing sound. It comes from our direction of the crowd. I don't realize what it is at first. They murdered the sheriff! Murdered? But no, he isn't. He's right there in front of me. He's still standing. I don't even see a bullet wound. But then I see the stain start to form. Will? He doesn't answer me. Then I see him topple over. His expression is the same as always. Like he's in the middle of an argument. Except his eyes aren't blinking. The noise of the crowd starts as a low roar. One of the soldiers lifts his rifles, and the noise of the shots is the only thing that can compete with the snarling. But I didn't even hear anything. To be continued. So, we have our first important casualty. Uh when I originally read this, when it came out for Patreon, I was not expecting William to die. At least not in any capacity. I was not expecting anybody in this story to die. Um my guess is that William is not the only casualty in this entire route. If you recall, William mentioned that he had found who the child, um, who was basically making the children disappear, for lack of better words. Um, and which children do we know from another route, aka Murdoch's route? So my guess is that, of course, it's the girl that was in the mines before. But it's also the other girl that goes looking for her, and it's the girl that goes looking for that girl. So my guess is that those two girls were, you know, victims. And I'm wondering what else. Well, no. I'm assuming that considering that the next update is Williams, that what we're gonna find out is who is the, the culprit. Hopefully, at least. Even though technically speaking, something else is happening in that route, but it might all be connected. Like because in Williams' route, we're investigating who tried to shoot Cliff when they were, playing cards. They found, um, one of the guys murdered with his head cut off, I think. And what else? What else? What else? Well, I'm assuming that is going to tie in. What we saw is going to tie into what happens with Williams' route. What else? What else? What else? What else? Not everything that happens in one route is connected to the other route, but like it kind of is at the same time. Anyways, so what are your thoughts? Were you expecting William to for the sheriff to be shot? To be murdered? Um this is interesting because perhaps it means that in the four routes that we may see some of the characters be killed off. Um huh. I know that William dying in this one kind of makes sense though, because out of all the characters in the story, aside from, Yao, actually basically Yao, um, that knew what was going on with Samuel and Nick. Actually, I guess Cynthia would also know, but like it wouldn't make sense for her to be involved in any of this. Actually, it probably would make sense. She might not be safe. Um, but out of all of these characters, it would make sense for William to die because he was the one that was trying to promise Samuel and Nick that he would try to protect them as much as he could. Because, well, for starters, he kind of sort of liked Samuel in that like very special way, and he was very good friends with Nikolai even before Samuel showed up. So, like for him, these are his two. I'm not gonna say best friends, but like his closest friends, the closest that comes to being able to call somebody a friend. Um, so to remove the only person that could protect them makes sense, but also the only person that could technically um hold the town together because the mayor is useless. Hendrix the Third is also useless, and in fact, we don't even know if he's instigating any of this. Actually, no, we know that he isn't. The one that's instigating any of this is Briggs, the collie, the foreman, well, co-owner of the mines and one of the foremans. We know that he's the one that called the what's it called, the National Guard. So yeah, but removing William essentially allows what we all know happens in Echo, which is a hysteria, or at least a hysteria like event to happen. Not only that, but like there were like little subtle signs here saying like, oh, like shooting someone, removing someone, and like William being very important, keeping things stable because obviously now that William isn't there, everything falls upon Deputy Bronson, but Deputy Bronson is unfortunately kind of I'm so sorry for him, but he's kind of dumb. Oh, Todd, you're kind of stupid. Um, who knows? Maybe he'll step up. It's also kind of funny that he wants to avoid water when his great grandchild, is gonna die by drowning. Uh, well, actually, is it his great grandchild or his grandchild? I think it's his grandchild. I'm not sure. But what else? Probably great grandchild. Anyways, um, what else? What else? What else? I'm gonna try to keep everything in one video. What else happens? I'm very curious to know what's happening with Yao. I am hoping that he's not the one that kills William because if you recall, he has access to a gun, but that would involve him going back into the mines, going over to the pillar, getting the gun, and then going back up, and then bringing it, and then shooting William for one reason or another. And if I recall correctly, too, I think what was it? Nick had already mentioned that Yao is not at the um he's not at the protests. So like, yeah. Anyways, what else? It's obviously not Chang. It's not Paul or Felipe or Dimitri. So it's it has to be one of the people that work for probably Briggs. Oh, and there was another one. They were talking about these people, the I forgot what they were called. Um, but it's a professional group of people that are professional union busters. I forgot their name already, but they are literally hired by companies to go into an area that's, trying to unionize and do whatever it takes to basically break up the unions or the unionization attempt or to break up the union from within. And they're very well known for being very scummy people. In fact, I think that there was a movie or a documentary or something that that was talking about them, like coming in and doing something, and it was like a historical fact type of movie. And the real people IRL in 2024 had to speak to their employees and try to reassure them that they are not terrible people. They're not terrible, evil people that go to unions and, try to union bust and do terrible, terrible things to people that are trying to unionize. But, they do. They're literal professional union busters. That's why that's why I think it was Dimitri said that it couldn't possibly be them because they were kind of sloppy, and this group, this literal company of professional union busters are very well organized. They're horrible people. What else? Um, I think that's kind of what I like about Nikolai's route is that I can recognize a lot of the things that they're saying, they're mentioning, and things like that because they're connected to real life things. Um, like the union busting, the whole thing with Ludlow, where it was basically a massacre for people. I think it was also a group of miners that were trying to unionize, and I think it was the National Guard also came in and basically killed all of them. Um, I think they firebombed them. They used explosives on them. Um, I might be confusing it with another one. But there was like two battles, I think, like two very well known altercations between unions and the federal government, basically. Because of course, companies control the government. Anyways, wh- wh- um, what else? What else? What else? What other stuff happened? Well, like I said, if I have time or if I deem it necessary, I might maybe do like a shorter video detailing what happens if you do not trust Yao. The whole, the ending of up to where you are right now or where I am right now goes basically the same, but other stuff happens in between. Um, you know, related to Yao, related to Sam, and well, yeah, it's mostly related to Yao and Sam. There is a one scene that I do want to show, and if I am not tired and if I'm not being lazy, then I will show it to you right now. Ah, that this is mostly the reason why I wanted to show it to you because if you recall, there was something rattling around Sam's head, and in the Trust Yao route, you don't really interact with it that much. It's basically saying that it is another Sam. It is Sam, but it isn't Sam, and it kind of does not like being Sam. But in the you don't trust Yao round, not only is it fearful of something, but it's showing the many forms and the many things that it has taken over in the past. And one of those is if you've played Echo, then it's something that you might recognize. Or at the very least that I think is something that you might recognize because I would have to ask and say, like, is this who I think it is? But yeah. Anyway, so write it in the comments what you think, and thank you all for watching slash listening. If you would like to play the smoke room yourself, you can do so by going down into the link in the description for the Echo Project Twitter page, which should have a direct link for the HIO page where you can download the smoke room and any of the other Echo Project visual novels. For example, Echo, if you want to revisit that story, that trauma, or Arches, if you want to revisit that trauma, which is my favorite trauma. And hopefully the update, the very last update for Arches releases soon because I want to read it. And I believe it revolves around Devon. And Bear will be returning to read Devon. And I think that there's two videos that I will be redoing with the new version of, the final version of Arches, because I didn't like the sound how it sounded. And also there's Ad Astra, there's Kemia, which is finally going to be released or re-released, re-released because this will be the third time that it's released. And there's other Glory Hounds and all the other visual novels that they do. So yeah, No, also their Patreon. If you want to subscribe to the Echo Project Patreon, which should net you early access to bales of all their visual novels as they're being worked on. Yeah, so you do that if you want. And I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.